morning. Okay. Welcome everyone to our class on iyun b'Gemara. We're taking a tour from Har Sinai to the present time, taking us a little time to go through the Torah at that level. So what we're doing, we finished the Rishonim, and now we're going to go into the Shulchan Aruch. And remember that the Tur, who's the son of the Rosh, who's also a Rishon, he writes the Abaturim, the 4 columns, where he writes a review. Oh, one second, my wife is, hold on.
Okay, no problem.
He narrows the focus of the halacha, the practical halachas that we do in the Gullus. Unlike the Rambam, who talks about the Beis Hamikdash, he summarizes all of the Shas. The Tur just writes about the halachas that are actually happening in the exile. So we are going to go into that level now, and we're going to see that the halacha is going to take a turn. We've been discussing in our, let's see here, we've been discussing in our flow from Har Sinai through the Gemara, you know, we even in the problem of Abaya with the 2 Pesukim conflicting, and the 2 solutions that the Gemara offers, Rav Papa, who according to the Rush made Kesef Shaveh Kesef and Meitav equal, and Rav Huna that put Shaveh Kesef underneath Meitav and Kesef. That's how the Rush understood it, and the Rif lines up with Rav Papa, and the Rabbeinu Tam Psaks like Rav Huna. So the Rush follows the Rif, and he brings a proof from the Gemara that talks about Vamesi alone, Rav Kahana. But his son, the Rush, when he writes down the opinion, looks like he's following the Rambam. So now the problem is going to be, so the halacha now moves us, or moves the field of practical, what do you do, Rabbi, to the field of the Rambam. So now we're going to have to investigate the Ramah and the Rambam in light of the Tur's acceptance of them. Actually, we could do that before. You should know that there's loads of people that talk on the Rambam. He's one of them, very heavy, you know, very heavily commented on every word. So, but we in our going down to the next level of the Tur are going to have to decide where the Rambam fits, because as we're going to read, as we read in the Rambam, he doesn't fit neatly into the 2 boxes that we've been discussing, Rav Papa and Rav Huna, according to the Rush, either Rabbeinu Tam or the Rif. It doesn't fit in. So let's start with Rambam. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just have to move location here in my house.
No problem.
So if I don't know if the connection will cut out when I'm
okay. So move.
I'll call you.
Move
again, okay?
and yeah.
Let me just.
Hashem.
Okay. Let's see.
Just tell me when.
Oh, so far so good. Oh no. Okay, it's good. It's good.
Oh, it sounds good.
Well, I didn't know whether I was.
You're going to pick it up. Okay. Min Shemayim. Okay. So we're going to have now, of course, every level that we're doing, as we said many times, we could spend many hours reading and discussing. But because our aim is to see what type of problems are handled in each generation. So we're going to move on to the Tur, and we're going to look at the Rambam and the Ramah in light of the Tur. Now, we did, as you may have remembered, discuss the Ramah discussed the Ran discussed the Ramah, and there's also a question whether that's called in Beit Yosef or the Ran, but be that as it may, in Agamar it says Beit Yosef, and the Nachsav it says he's the Ran. So it's a little bit of a problem, but it doesn't matter. It was the same period of time, and he brought the Ramah, who's a Rishon. So the Ramah had this unusual position that actually Kesef is first. Okay, so this is a good place to just do a quick review. The Rush, who's following Rashi Rif and the halacha of Rebbe, is going to Pesach that Meitav, Kesef, and Metaltalin are all equal. That means the Mazik can give either one, Meitav, Farka, Kesef, or any type of Metaltalin, even Subin. The Rabbeinu Tam that we have on Tes holds like Rav Huna. He brings that in Sefer Yashar, that no, if you have Meitav or Kesef, you must give it first, but you can choose between Kesef. But Yashiv is only if you don't have Meitav and Kesef, and that's how Rabbeinu Tam Pesach Huna. Now, we're going to look at the Rambam now again, just to refresh our memory. Kesef is going to be problematic, remember. I put it here equal because people hold that the Rambam says Kesef or Metaltalin is first. But the Rambam does say only when you don't have movables can you go to land. Okay? So that puts Meitav last, and according to Rav Huna, Meitav was first. And according to Rav Papa, Meitav was equal. Meitav comes last. We don't know how he's understanding the Gemara, and that'll be one of our problems. The Ramah goes a step further, and he says not only is Meitav last and Metaltalin better than it, but even Kesef is before all of them. So if you have money, you must give it first. Okay? So now the Ramah that's brought in the Ran explains here that this is really the position of Rav Papa. Okay, and he says a wonderful svara. It's a pure svara. The svara, I mean pure meaning that there's no text in our Gemara that would indicate this, but he says, look, what is the svara of Rav Papa? Rav Papa said that Metaltalin is better than Karka. Why? Because if you can't sell it here, then you can sell it somewhere else, right? So then he says, so Kesef, which, in other words, why is Metaltalin better than Meitav? He says because is Mizdamen, the Kesef is found faster than it is in the land. In land, you have to put up a for sale sign, you have to go around, you only have a few, there's a lot of tircha involved in selling a piece of land. So you're not going to get your money so easily. So it's true that Torah said get the best in order to inspire the people around to get it. But as far as its ability, its convertibility into cash, Metaltalin converts better. So the Ramah, or brought in the Ran over there, or the Yosef, whoever it is, says, look, that same svara would make a distinction between Kesef and Metaltalin. I.e., if you're looking for cash, so the best cash, because that you don't even have to go to the marketplace to get it, right? So that was the svara that was brought in the Ran, or the Beit Yosef bringing Ran. Okay, so that would be Kesef. You understand? The difference in Agama, Rav Papa never spoke about Kesef, correct? Rav Papa only said the difference between Metaltalin and Meitav, and he said that Meitav is worse than Metaltalin. That's all he told us. But he didn't talk about Kesef. But he said, but from what he said about Metaltalin, says the Ramah, i.e., that it's more convertible into cash, so we know that cash is the king. The best thing is cash. If you have it, you have to give it, because the metalton is going to take you a little bit of time before you get to the next town or you sell it. So really cash is first. And then he brought a proof from Balchov. In the Balchov, cash is first. So that's basically the field that we have here. The Ramah will be a alternative interpretation of Reb Papa. In other words, whereas they're saying, that means the Rush, understanding the Rif and Rashi, saying that Meitav, when we had the pasuk of Kesef, the Meitav was brought up to, actually, let's do it that way. When we had the pasuk of Kesef, Yoshi was brought up to the level of Kesef, and Meitav was also brought up to the level of Shiv. They're all brought up to the same level. Okay, they're all equal. But the Ramah said not so. Okay, he said, no, you missed the point. Meitav is more difficult to get your money back, so therefore really metalton is better, and then Kesef is better than that. Okay, so that's basically the scene that we're involved in. I don't know. I just have to answer that, unfortunately. Just 1 second.
No problem.
Oh, my wife did get it. Okay. All right. Let's go further now. Okay. So our aim is to understand the Rambam and the Ramah. The Ramah with a hey, and not with an aleph, not in Beit Yosef, but the Rishon. So that was explained. The Rambam is going to be a little bit problematic because he doesn't talk about Kesef at all. So does he hold the same thing as the Ramah or not? So look at that. Okay. Let's see where we are. Very good. So we're here in level 5 already, and this is where our chart is now extending to. Okay, so the tour here, Rav Yaakov ben Asher, is before the so 1269, according to this, according to the dates that I have, to around 1343. So he's a Rishon. He's right after. He's right after his father, obviously. I mean, the same period of time, but consequently. So he's before, like 100 years before Gerish Sfard. Then the people that we're going to deal with now, like the Beit Yosef, are going to be right after the Gerish Sfard. Beit Yosef was was 6 years old or something. It was 1492, 4 years old. Yeah. He was 4 years old when Gerish Sfard happens, and as he went to Bulgaria, and then from Bulgaria he went to Eretz Israel. And he felt that the Sephardic world, which had just gone through a Holocaust, I mean, they were totally chased in every country. First they went to Portugal, then they went to Bulgaria, then they went to... The Spanish went crazy, killed a lot of Jews, and made sure that the other ones would convert or get out of the country. So, Bekitzer, he felt that the Sephardic world needed a Shulchan Aruch, which was much simpler than the Torah. The Torah, although in our case we're going to see, does not bring a machlokas of Rishonim, but in other cases the Torah brings down the various differences between Rishonim, and he does not give a clear pasak. He says this Rishon says this, and this Rishon says that. So the Rabbi Yosef Cairo wanted to make a more definitive Shulchan Aruch. Then Rev Moshe Isserles, the Ramah with an aleph, okay, he was going to write a new Shulchan Aruch himself for the Sephardic world, because if you looked at who Rabbi Yosef Cairo wrote in the Shulchan Aruch, it was the Rif, the Rambam, and Rush. So the Rif and the Rambam both represent the Sephardic opinion, and the Rush is an Ashkenaz that went to Sfard. So it was heavily weighted toward the Sephardic opinion. So the Reb Moshe Isserles wanted to write a Shulchan Aruch for the Ashkenazim, but he decided he didn't want two Shulchan Aruchs in Klal Yisrael, so he just wrote amendations in the Ramah. Okay, we're going to get to him, but why did I bring them up? Because they're going to be also the people who they're also going to be the people who are going to talk on the tour. So everybody, the tour was the exception Shulchan Aruch. Then in order to streamline things, so the Beit Yosef wrote his Shulchan Aruch, but the people always commented on the tour. That was what they had. That was the basis of halacha. All right. So now let's go into the tour itself. Okay. Let's go down to the tour. Read him. First, we'll refresh our memory with the Rambam. Okay. So I'm going to put you on the floor now. You're going to read the Rambam. Okay. This is the Rambam. Is that good enough? Is that good, big enough for you, or should I make it larger?
Yeah.
Make it
Can you make it a bit bigger? Just a little.
There we go. That good? Or can you make it larger? That's what I got.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, that's good.
Okay.
It's now reading the Rambam? Okay.
So right here is the Rambam. Mishnah Torah, that's Hilchis Mamon, the laws of, and the laws of money. And Halacha Chet. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Did you turn on your speaker?
Yeah.
Okay, that causes the feedback for some reason. I hear my voice coming.
I'm not using my earphones. Is that why?
Yeah. Your earphone. You have to use your earphone, or else it's.
Okay. Sorry, just got my earphones tangled here.
All right. We have faxes going off, movement. Okay, Baruch Hashem. That's a good sign. It means the Yetzer Hara is trying to stop us from learning. That's the only way. It's better with these little things. The Ramchal says a very interesting thing. The Hashem never overlooks a person's punishment. So what does he do, though? If a person's supposed to get a big slap, what he does is he divides it into little pieces. So when you add it all up, it comes in. So he says, for instance, when you put your money in your pocket and you want to give some tzedakah or something, you pull out, $1 instead of 25 cents. That's called tsar. It's a little bit of tsar, so, that comes off the cheshbon. So Baruch Hashem, it's always good to have tsar in little ways. Okay, so let's read the Rambam. Here's the Rambam, okay?
No, we read this already.
Yeah. I'm going to read through because we have to get warmed up. We're rereading, okay? Because.
Okay, good. Okay, Shabbestin Nezakikin Legavoy Sanizak Menichnesem Mazik when the Bezdin
is obliged. Let's say Niskaking, obliged.
Right, that's when it's kakin, right. So when the Bezdin is obliged to
collect,
to pay the Nizak. When a business is obliged to collect for the damaged party from the property of the damager.
Right.
Govin mina metaltalin tchila. So they take from the movables to begin with.
Right.
Im lo hayu lo metaltalin klal, and if he doesn't have any movables, or shelo hayu metaltalin kenegat kol hanizak. So if he doesn't move, or the amount of the amount of the movables does not equal the amount that he actually owes the damaged party. Govin shar mina karka, then we take the rest from the equivalent in land.
Right.
Min hayafa shebenichnas mazik, that which is the nicest piece, or it is that the mazik has, the damager has. The whole zman shimatzu metatalin, so long as we have movables, afilu subin, even bran, then they're not obliged to take land.
Right. So here again, here I put it because that's what people say later on. Kesef is equal to subin, and meitav is the last thing. But this kesef is not so simple because we said last time we met, the Rambam's talking about the Beis Din is obligated to collect. So why can't we simply say that, like we said with the Ramah, that the Mazik not have money, right? And therefore the Beis Din had to go down to the physical property of the Mazik, and first it collects from the Subin and then the Meitav. So that, if the Rambam is the Ramah, then everything works out very, very well. I mean, at least we understand that the Rambam's coming from Reb Papa. He used the svara of whatever more quickly convertible to cash is more desirable. That's how he got the Kesef first, Subin second, and only third the Meitav. Okay? So let's see if that's what the people say on the page. Okay, so this diagram is not exactly accurate. I mean, this is what some people say, that Kesef is equal to Subin and Meitav is the worst, but it's not at all mukhrach in what the Rambam says. I don't believe it's a possibility, because Rambam doesn't say about Kesef, and we may find other reasons why the Beis Din is collecting, but that's it. Okay, now okay, v'im lo metaltalin, we said. Yordan l'karka yidish m'nechasav afilu im zibur shel hamazik tova ke'idish ka'anizek ena makabel mimenu ela tzar shiten lo me'idis shibekarka sav. There we said over there, that's the machlokus between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, that if the mazik has double A land, and the single A land he has is equal to the best of the Nizak, he still has to give the double A land of the best that he has. If he has two pieces of Idis that are equal, the Nizak cannot which one to give him. Tenli me'idis ploni. He has no right to say. Ela toli b'ratzon hamazik. The mazik decides which piece of the two Idis lands to give the Nizak. Okay. Aval k'shamazik chofetz gam ken liten idis, but if the mazik would rather give idis than metaltalin, he doesn't want to give away his Cadillac, he'd rather give away a piece of land, should be kesh, ela shehi atabzol, but what happens if the land happens to be at the winter price? Matin acheti yaker, he can wait until the land goes up in price in the summertime, v'ome im tirso, so kachna kafi ma shati lit yaker. He could tell the Nizak, okay, if you want this land, I'm willing to give it to you, not karka, but you're going to have to pay the higher price. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's not true. Ain shomen lo, but no lo kafi mashi shavata. Just the opposite. If he decides that he wants to give it is property B to the Nizak and not metaltalin. So excuse me, not it is property A, but he says, okay, I'll give you. He can't say to him, but you have to take the larger price. The price we deal with is in the now. Okay, that's a very quick overview. Then we had the Beit Yosef. Okay, so you can read the Beit Yosef a little. Here's the Beit. Now here's the commentary of the Beit Yosef. Okay, so he first quotes the Tur. Okay, you want to read it? Yeah, Kashabayim
Sure. Go
ahead.
So when they come to collect on behalf of the Nizak, they investigate. If the damager has movables, they don't go into his property to sell his land. Rather, you should give him movables.
Okay, so there we just see it in the small picture that movables are taken before land. Okay, so now the comment of the Beit Yosef, who is Yosef Cairo, who will later go on to write the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so keep going.
So now he points out that, So he points out that this is different from the Rosh, right? If I remember correctly. Kain Kasav Rosh Beperek. Oh no, he gives a different. He says that the source of this is from a different Rosh, not the Rosh on this halacha, but a different halacha. Kain Kasav Rosh Beperek Kama the Baba Kama. Inyan Prius Bal Choiv. So the Rosh writes on the issue of a Bal Chov, somebody who has to return money that he's borrowed. V'zelo shano. Inyan Prius Bal Chov nearly Islay Lelave Metaltale Mekarke, that if the one who borrowed money has movables and land, Kefinan le Metav le Metaltale.
We force him, kafir. We
not
force
kafir,
him, lametav, to give metaltalin.
Movables.
Yeah. If the person who's paying the loan has land and movables, we, the Beis Din, force him to give back the money. He does not have a choice. I'm sorry.
Right.
Again, if he has movables and land,
Yeah.
right, we force the person who borrowed the money to give movables before land.
Right.
Go ahead.
Im chafetz behem hamalafe
Amalva,
yoser amalve yoser me bekarkai. If the creditor would rather have his land.
no, the metaltalin.
Yoter me bekar.
Im chafetz behem,
bekarkai.
yes. Hamalva yoter mi bekarke. If the malva would rather have the metaltalin more than the land, so then he could take the metaltalin.
Oh, I see. He's actually continuing from the previous
Yeah.
phrase there. Kevan dezuze yahav or yehiv, because it's more like money. It's like giving him money.
Now read the whole sentence. Kivan de zuze yahiv.
Yahiv. Shakil kol mida de mekarav lezuze tfei. Shakil is to pay out.
He takes midei, everything that's closer to money, more. V'hainu metaltalin.
Whatever resembles money more.
Right.
Like metaltalin. Okay, so right. The ilo mizdavin the ohiv mata mizdavin b'maisachim. Because if we don't, I always forget what to
Sell. If he can't sell it in this place, he could sell it in another
sell in
place.
this place, and he can sell it somewhere else. Right.
Okay, stop. So first of all, the rush, by the way, this is the same hay that we've been speaking about. After the rush speaks about this whole problem between Rabbeinu Tam and the Riv and how to Pasak, then he goes on to speak about the case of the Malva and the Lova. Okay? In the case of the Malva and the Lova, the Beit Yosef points out, there the Rush says that the Malva can demand metaltalin over karka, because he has a right to demand everything that's closer to money, according to Reb Papa's Svara. So the Rosh is taking Reb Papa's Svara, which is that money is the best and everything's close to the money is better, and he's saying that the Malva can decide. So let's just read that again. He says, "Kain katav Rosh beperakam the babakama simin hay le'inyan prius balchov." This that the Tur said that the Beis Din can force the mazik to give his metaltalin before the karka. This, the Rush said, not on Nezikin, but he said it on Baal Chov, the Malva and the Lova case. And then he just quoted the Rush said in the Baal Chov case. So that's a little bit right away, said is already a sign that there's nervousness over here with the Beit Yosef. He really doesn't understand the source of the tour. Okay, he has a source in the Rush for Baal Chov, but not a source for Nezikin. Why doesn't he jump immediately to the Rambam? Don't know. Okay, but I guess he presumes that the Torah should be following his father, right? He's
Yeah.
So he's saying, but wait a minute, if you look at his father, the Rush never said that there's a preference Altalin over Karka. He said, in Ezekiel, he said that in Baal Chov. Okay? So let's read that again. The Rush said, quote, Ule'inyan Priyas Baal Chov, Zelashano. Ule'inyan Priyas Baal Chov, nearly, if the debtor has metaltalin and karka, then kefinin le lemesav le metaltalin behena malva yotem karka. Then we force the lova to give the malva the metaltalin if the malva decides he wants it more than the karka. Okay, so it seems that if I ask you who's in control over here, it seems that the malva is, according to the Rush, when it comes to malva and lova, the malva is in control. He can decide what the lova will pay him back with. If he wants the karka, he can do it. If he wants the metaltalin more than the karka, he can do it. Okay, now what's the svara? Came the zuza yehiv, since he, the malva, the creditor, gave money, so shakol kol midi the makar l'zuzei tvei. So he has a right to demand everything that's closer to money. And what's closer to money? That's metaltalin. The lo mizdaven mahai masa mizdaven l'masa chrisa, because if it's not sold here, if it's not, you can't sell your metaltalin here. You'll sell it somewhere else. So here the Rush is applying what we learned from Reb Papa to the Baal Chov, correct?
Right.
And it's very interesting. I mean,
there's no separate halacha about Baal Chov? There isn't a separate discussion of Gemara about Baal Chov?
Well, we're going to get into the Baal Chov. Yes, people are going to bring the halacha about Baal Chov, but it's interesting that the Rush does not bring it from these other places where Baal Chov, they do say that the metaltalin is better than they say the metaltalin is better than the karka. But he doesn't bring that. He brings the svara of Reb Papa. So we're going to have to investigate. That's going to be part of our investigation. We're going to have to broaden our horizons, look at a few more Gemaras. But first, let's just try to focus on what we have here. The Rush takes Reb Papa's svara, that says everything that's closer to money is preferable, and he applies that to the case of Baal Chov. Okay. Now he didn't say it mafarish in Nezikin. In Nezikin, we understood the Rush to say that Meitav and Kesef and Metaltalin were all equal. But in Baal Chov, he makes this distinction that since the Kaven de Zuzi Yahiv, this is a very important line here. Since the creditor gave money, he has a right to demand money. And therefore he has a right to demand everything closer to money. Okay, that's what we call a pure svara, right? He says, look, so now we spoke last week, so what does this have to do with Nezikin? Okay. In the Zekin, excuse me, let's wait for the base. That's the Beit Yosef question. So let's stop. All the Beit Yosef now did was bring the halacha of the Tur that said that the basin collects from a metaltalin before karka, and he said, well, it looks like the Tur is from what the Rush said about Balchov. Okay, that's all he says. Now, here is the Beit Yosef talking. Okay, Vedima Rabbeinu is the Tur, and the Tur compared Prius Nezikin le Prius Balchov. So the Beit Yosef now is attributing the Tur's halacha to the comparison that the Rif had between Balchov and Nezikin. Okay, is that clear? In other words, we have to be clear about who's talking where here. Okay, the Rush didn't say anything about any preference of metaltalin over karka when it came to Nezikin. But he did say there is a preference when it comes to Balchov of metaltalin over karka. The Beit Yosef says it must be that the Tur is taking his halacha, which gives a preference of metaltalin over karka, from what his father said about Balchov. Okay, but Dima Rabbeinu Prius Nezikin Prius Dalchov. That was the Tur's work. The Tur said, look, my father held that there's a preference of metaltalin over karka in Balchov, and therefore I'm going to apply that to Nezikin. That's how the Beit Yosef explains this halacha in the Tur. Okay, now he says, "Va'afal pisha yesh lechalek b'neihem." Even though the Beit Yosef can see a big distinction between Malva and Nezikin. What? Akan lo omar harash ela b'balchov. The Rush only brought the svara up in Balchov, mishum dekevin de zuzi yehiv. The Rush said clearly, why does the Balchov have the ability to get metaltalin over karka? Kevin de zuzi yehiv. Since the creditor gave money, he has a right to call midin makar b'zuzei tvei. He has a right to get everything back. Well, the Nizak didn't give money, did he? Never gave money. Right? He lost money, but never gave money. Mm-hmm. So we said, so the Beit Yosef says it's a big distinction here. The Rush said it in Balcho because he gave money, has a right to get money back. Okay? Mishum became the Ziv. Aval ben Nezikin lekahai taima, says the Beit Yosef. Wait a minute. Nezikin, the Nizak didn't give money. Yet the Tur made this comparison. So he answers, Lo mashma l'Rabbeinu. This chilek that I'm making between the case of Balchov and Nezikin did not seem to be critical to Rabbeinu, who is the Tur. Why? The kevne lo ishkachan de pligi rabbanim b'neihem b'hachi lo mafliginan. He says, since we don't see any of the rabbanim, means any in the Gemara, that makes a difference between Balchov and Nezikin, therefore they should have the same din. So what I find in Balchov, I should be able to export to Nezikin. When it comes to the difference between metaltalin and karka. That's what he says. Okay, so again, this is a very, very subtle thing that the was saying. He's looking at the Tur as if the Tur is copying or is giving the law according to his father. We said it looks like the Lashon of the Rambam. For some reason, the Beit Yosef does not want to say that. He wants to say it must be that he's following his father. If he's following his father, where does he get this idea that you give metaltalin before karka? We learned that the Rush had everything was an equality. So he says, no, the the Tur learned from what his father said about Balchov and applied it to Nezikin. Since in Balchov, the creditor is allowed to take metaltalin over karka, so too in Nezikin, the Nizak is allowed to take metaltalin over karka. Okay, that's what he says. Now, even though there's a big chilek, the Tur does not apply that distinction. That's what he says. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah.
I mean, it's subtle, but that's what's going
he doesn't.
on.
He's not finding a positive reason for why he's doing this, though. For why the Tur is doing it. He's getting him off the contradiction hook.
Exactly.
He's not contradicting himself. But he's not. But there's no explanation for why he did this.
Yeah, he does say, he says, because he says in the relationship between metaltalin and karka, that metaltalin is more preferable. We don't see anyone that argues with that. But I don't know, we see Rav Huna argues with that, right? Rav Huna said, no. Rav Huna also said, Rav Huna said that karka was better than metaltalin, right? The way we were learning Rav Huna. Oh, kesef u'meitav, and if you don't have kesef u'meitav, then you give metaltalin. So I don't know why he says, came the lo ashkachan the pligi rabbanon b'neihem, b'hachi. What's b'neihem? Between metaltalin and karka? Well, we do have people that are arguing between it. So it's not so simple to understand this defense over here.
No, but isn't he saying that there's no machlokas derabbanon between the two, between the Balchov?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Versus, yeah.
No, that's exactly right. There's no distinction. There's no argument that there is a similarity between Nezikin and Balchov. That's what he's saying.
What I'm saying is that because that's a good enough reason to say that the Tur is not contradicting himself, because there is no contradiction within the Gemara between Balchov and Meitav, but it's not giving a positive reason for why the Tur would have picked up his father's reasoning on Balchov and applied it here.
Right. So that's the best that the Beit Yosef can do. I mean, he's stuck. So the best he can do is to say that the Tur. The question is, is the Tur following his father here? Well, we certainly didn't learn that way.
Right, he's not.
And a matter of fact, it cannot really be, because remember the raya of the Rush from Rav Kahana. You can't have a preference of anything over. One second, I'm just seeing if that's correct. Again, we have to run into this Rav Kahana again. It's very important, because Rav Kahana said we need v'hamesi yelo, and we said it must be that they're all equal, because if it were true that metaltalin was worse, so then we would need in the case where he has kesef u'meitav. Okay, so metaltalin can't be worse, but can meitav be worse? Well, I guess it could be, because if you had kesef or because what did Rav Kahana say? If you have all these treifos, if the mazik had a bunch of treifos, he could give it. So certainly, if the nizak had gave him the treifa, he could just shoot it back to the nizak, right? So he said, I don't need a pasuk for Mesi Alo to tell me the nizak gets an avela, because I have the pasuk that says Yoshiv, that he can get an avela. So, but that pasuk could mean that Yoshiv is equal to Kesef. But what happens if he only had Meitav Karka? One second, just let me think a minute. I'm just trying to say if the same logic would apply here. This is where we got caught the last time. Again, let's go again. The raya of the rush was that Rav Kahana said, I don't need Vamesi Elo, tell me that the Nizak gets the Nevela, because I have Yoshiv. Yoshiv, even if the Mazik would get the Nevela from the Nizak, he could Vadai give it back. So it's obvious that the Mazik can always give the Nevela back to the Mazik. And I don't need a pasuk to say that. Yeah, because metaltalin is better. Yeah. So if it's true, metaltalin is worse than kesef and meitav, so that wouldn't work. That's true. If metaltalin was worse, because if he had kesef, or say he had all three, according to Reb Huna, you would say he cannot give the carcass back. So there, I would need Vamesi Elo to say the Nizak gets the carcass in that case. Okay, but what happens if we're not holding like Reb Huna that that metaltalin is worse? What happens if metaltalin is equal to kesef, or and let's say it's equal to kesef? So if it's equal to kesef. If it's equal to kesef, Vamesi Elo, so he could give it back. And what happens if, just one second, if it's equal to kesef and meitav is the worst, so then if it's equal to kesef, he can always give it back and bounce it back. What happens if he only has meitav? If he has meitav and only has meitav, well, no, if he gets the karka and then he'll have meitav and he'll have, it'll work out. So it's no kasha to the rush. As far as my cheshbon in my head, there's no kasha to the rush. In other words, the rush was only eliminating the possibility that Rav Kahana could hold like Rav Huna, which means that Subin is the worst, because if Subin is the worst, so if Subin is the worst, so when you have Kesef or Meitav, you have to give them first, and then I would need the pasuk for Vamesi Elo. I can't bounce back the Nevela in that case. So then I need a pasuk to say that the Nizak gets the Nevela. But if I hold that Karka is the worst, which is what we're saying here in the tour, that Karka is the worst, so then there's no problem, because if he has Kesef or Shavit Kesef, he can give either one. In other words, he can bounce back the Nevela, so I don't need a pasuk there. And if he doesn't have, or all he has is Meitav, so of course if he gets the Nevela from the Nizak, he can also bounce that back, because you can always bounce, you can give metaltalin over. So there's really no problem with the rush saying this, okay? I don't know if you got the cheshbon. I just worked it out in my head.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't. But anyway, it works out, put it that way. I just wanted to make sure it works out. You can hear the recording again. But basically, because I just wanted to make sure it worked out with Rav Kahana, because that's a very important issue of the rush. So it does work out. You can still hold Rav Kahana, and you can hold Rev Papa, right? But what you have to say here is a chiddush, though. The chiddush that you have to say is that Rev Papa is holding that kesef and metaltalin are given before meitav. Rev Papa, that's what Rev Papa is holding. He definitely said that. Remember, he definitely said that metaltalin is before meitav. That he did say, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so you have to just say according to that over there that also kesef is the same. It's not going to run into a problem. But we were always understanding that they were all equal. So since the Torah put meitav above, so now it'll come out, it has to be according to the Torah, that kesef and meitav are alternatives. Excuse me, that's not right. According to the Torah, it has to be that kesef and metaltalin are equal alternatives. kesef metaltalin, and like Reb Papa said, it's only meitav that's a madrega less because it's not equal to it doesn't have convertibility. Okay, that's what
which
we're gonna
goes
have to
with the
say.
Rambam.
He's explaining the Rambam, yes. So he's saying that well, it happened, but no, I'm not saying this. My mouth went too quick. No, he's explaining this in the Torah. Or he's saying that the Rabbeinu, he's saying the Torah, this is what the Torah did to his father. The Torah took his father's svara in Malva and Lova, which made metaltalin better than karka, and applied it to the case of Nezikin, even though the Torah didn't say it. The Torah never said that metaltalin was better than karka and Nezikin, right? But the Torah understood from his father that since he said this in Malva, that he also held it in Nezikin. That's what you have to say if he's following, because there's no mention of the Rambam here. We said, hey, this is the Rambam. It's even the Lashon, part of the Lashon of the Rambam. Kesher based in Govin, right? It's a situt. It's a part of the language. But he doesn't want to say that.
What did the Rosh actually say on this? What's his psak on this?
Where?
The Rosh.
In what? Which case? In the case of Nezikin?
In our case, I remember. Yeah.
In our case of Nezikin. Let's go back to the Rosh.
Yeah. Only the case of Nezikin. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go back to the Rosh. Oops. Here's the Rosh. The Rosh brought Rashi, Rav Alfas, right? Whose whole and old Rav Alfas said that he holds that there was an argument between Rav Huna and Rav Papa, and Rav Alfas pesakt like Rav Papa. Okay, that's all that the riffs. We don't know the relationship of all the pieces, right? We presumed that all three were equal, but the Rosh didn't spell that out when it came to Nezikin. He just, all right. The Reb Papa Reb Huna Reb Reshu Pligia the Rava Usvara Kol Meitav Huva Filusubin, and he said that Reb Papa disagrees with Reb Huna because with Subin equal. In other words, he doesn't have any, put it this way, not really equal to Kesser. We didn't talk about Kesser, but he said you don't have to give Meitav when it comes to Subin. That's what Rav Papa said, right?
What do you mean you don't have to give Meitav? He's saying that all three are the same, no? That Meitav are Subin.
Yeah, but you don't have to give Meitav Metaltalin.
Right.
They're all equal, but you don't have to give Meitav Metaltalin.
Right.
Because he says the Sabri they call Mila Meitav Huva Filu Subin. When it comes to Metaltalin, it's all called Meitav. You don't have to give Meitav Metaltalin, right?
But what's his position on what's better between Metaltalin and Karaka?
Doesn't say. Here's the riff. Here's the riff. Or the meaning Meitav Sadeo Meitav Karma. Hani Mila Hegati Hivlo Mikarke. When do you have to give best? That's when you give Karka. Aval Hivle Metaltalin. But if you give Metaltalin, then call me the Hiv Le Meitav Ninhu Vafilu Subin the Lo Mizdaven Hach Mizdaven Mizdaven Hacha. It means another place. The Tanya Kesal the Rabba Shavi Kesva Filu Subin. So hold on. So the Rif says this din of Meitab, all he tells us the din of Meitab is exclusively to Karka, right? And it does not exist when it comes to Metaltalin. Why? Because Metaltalin is called, all Metaltalin is called good, because even the worst stuff you can sell it. So is that any indication of the relationship to Metaltalin and Karka?
Not really.
Not really. He's just saying that there's a din, and when you give Karka, it has to be the best. But when it gives you Metaltalin, it doesn't have to be the best. Right? That's all he's telling us. Now, is there a preference of Metaltalin over Karka? Well, he doesn't spell it out. He doesn't spell it out. I wish he would. I mean, he should have. If there really is a preference, this is called Ika Chasam and Aseifa. These people who are trying to abstract the Gemara and make things clearer should go all the way. As it's 9 yards, they say, go to the end. You know what I mean? So you would presume, and that's why a presumption was that the Karka is equal to the mate of Karka is equal to all forms of Metaltalin. But they're reading into this, maybe not so, because he didn't say it, right? But he says here, because they say that actually Subin is worse, Metaltalin is worse. The halach happens to be like Papa Rabun Rishu, the Basroi Ninhu. Okay. We wrote that Kesu Subin and Meitav are all the same, but there is room to. He never said it. He never said it in black and white. Okay. Now, when it came to the Rush said that the Rebbe Tam holds like Rav Huna, right? And he quotes Rav Alfas. The Rav Huna that what? The perish, the Rav Huna Rav Yeshua, the Rav Papa de Lael, Pligi ad the Rav Huna, they argue. The Inhu, that's Rav Papa and Rav Huna Rav Yeshua, so all mili meitav huva filosubin, but Rav Huna suffered the lo have meitav ella kesef or karka. Okay, so again, he doesn't spill the beans about what does Papa hold between Metaltalin and Karka. He doesn't spell it out. All he says is Pesach Rev Huna Rev Yeshua. That's fine. So that means that you don't have to. All it's telling us is that you don't have to give Meitav Metaltalin. That's it. And Rabbeinu Tam holds that there's 3 dinin. He's Pesach's like Rev Huna, the Kesef Meitav, and if you don't have it, Kesef Meitav, it's the only time you give Subin. Okay. Okay, and Balcho we have over here. This also there we do have even Rabbeinu Tam holds as a preference of Zuzay over Metaltalin. The Islay Zuzay lo matzi le salka elze. You see, and he brings a Gemara. You see, he doesn't bring a svara like we just learned. He brings a Gemara from Kesubis, which we didn't do, which we have to get into. Okay, the Lesle Zuzay lo amar leziel. And if he doesn't have Zuzah, we don't say go out and sell your Metaltalin and bring it. Okay? Okay, so let's just go here. So that was the Rush. He just quoted Rabbeinu Tam and the Rif, right? Oops, what happened? It's not the Rush. Where's the rest of the Rush? What's going on here? What's going on here? Skip something? Oh, here's the Rush. I'm sorry. The Rush brought Rashi and in Rev Alfas, right? That they were arguing and saying that Kol Milimeitav Hu and Pesach's, the Rif Pesach's like Reb Papa. Then he brings Rabbeinu Tam, okay, which is the Svara Rav Huna. And here he brought his Shaila. Maybe now we'll understand the Shaila better of the Rush. The Rush wants to know why, but that's really all in Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam, remember, he said, how come he doesn't hold Basroi? So he says maybe Rabbeinu Tam holds that that Rav Huna and Rav Papa don't argue. And then he says that can't be because of Rav Kahana. He says they must be they're arguing just out of place. Okay, so that. Now I did not bring the second part of the Rush. After this, the Rush talks about Balchov. Okay, and that's the quote that we just read. But he does not say here, does not talk directly about the relationship of Metaltalin and Karka. He doesn't say anything. It's again, we're going to learn through omission. How come he didn't talk? How come he didn't say clearly what the position of Reb Papa is when it comes to Metaltalin and Karka? Right? So there's where the Beit Yosef will say, well, he did in the next paragraph tell us the relationship of Metaltalin to Karka in Balchov. There, Zuzeh comes before Metaltalin. Money comes before Metaltalin. So the Tur said, well, he didn't say clearly what his position was in Nezikin, but I'll take his position in Balchov and move it up there because it's like a second variation, which he waited to talk about in Balchov, and I will apply Balchov up to Nezikin, even though there's a difference between the two, but we don't see that there's any argument, he says, between the cases of Nezikin and Balchov when it comes to this issue. What issue? The relationship of money to, the relationship of Metaltalin to Karka. I'm sorry. Okay. 1 second. Relationship of Metaltalin to Karka?
Yeah.
Yeah, the relationship of Metaltalin to Karka.
Right. And could it be that the Rosh, he seemed to be happy with commenting on the Rif?
Yes.
Or defending the position of the Rif against the Ran, right?
Against Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam.
Sorry, against Rabbeinu Tam. So maybe he didn't feel like he had to give a more specific position on the Rif than that. In other words, everything until Rabbeinu Tam's not Rabbeinu Tam until the Tur, until the Tur steps in, basically any Rav Papa's position, which goes through the Rif and through the Rosh, is a position that allows for everything. It's an all-inclusive type of position. So it can accommodate, the Tur is the only one that steps in, and within that position makes a choice.
Right.
He makes a preference. So is it that, I don't know, is it that his father, the question is why did he, it's not clear how he got that from his father, because up until his father, the position is still wide open. There could be any one of the three items is fine. Right. Is it that his father, like, was there a kind of Torah Shabbal Peh between him and his father, where his father said, look, my position is really like Baal Chov, but here I'm commenting, in my Sefer, I'm really commenting on the Rif. I'm not going to narrow down my position when it comes to the explanation of the Rif, which goes back to the Rav Papa, but the actual Psak would go according to would require comparing our halacha to Baal Chov.
Well, remember, the Rif is also not clear in the relationship between Metaltalin and Karka.
Yeah, because they're all following Rav Papa. Rav Papa himself is not clear.
Exactly.
He wants to be inclusive. Yeah.
So therefore, really, to say again, so if the Rif is not clear with the relationship and the Rush is not clear with the relationship, and we do have a clarity in the Rush when it comes to Baal Chov, so the Torah is saying, look, since we don't see anyone making a distinction between Metaltalin and Karka, making that distinction between Baal Chov and Ezekiel, so I'll just move what my father said downstairs, upstairs, and that's what he meant.
Right. And it dovetails nicely with the Rambam, after all.
And it does dovetail with the Rambam, but also we're not Pesach like the Rambam, because no one brought up why should he go to the Rambam if why should he go to the Rambam when he has his father? You know?
Right.
So it's better to find the Rambam in the
Yes,
Rif. Anyway, and in his father's words. The Rambam definitely has a preference to the Rif. That's his Masorah. But the Rush, the Rush in this case also has a preference to the Rif. So if we can find the Rambam's...
But the Rambam,
yeah, go ahead.
the Rambam himself is moving away, not moving away from the Rif, but the Rambam is assuming that the Rif is the ultimate source of both the Rambam and the Tur.
And the Rush.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, but only the Tur and the Rambam are within the parameters of the position of the Rif. They're making the same qualification.
Right.
The Rambam and the Tur.
Right.
So it's all within the Rif, really, in a way.
Right. I agree with you. Yes, they're pushing this all into the Rif.
But they're saying something that the Rif didn't say, or the Rosh.
Exactly.
The addition is there's an
Because-
addition happening here. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's not again. It's the problem of omission.
Right,
This is what
right.
the next generation always has to fill we fill the hole in the Swiss cheese, so to speak.
Right.
Okay, because
I wonder.
there's an omission. It's not he didn't comment on this fact, so we only have presumptions. You go ahead.
In a way, I was going to say that since it's all the same boat, namely, the Rif being the last one. So in a way, the Tur, using his father, in a way, is explaining the Rambam. Could be. I mean, see what I'm saying? Because the Rambam also doesn't give a reasoning. He doesn't explain why he's qualifying the Rif's position. So in a way, the Tur is, and anyway, according to the Beit Yosef, not according to himself.
Exactly.
But according to Beit Yosef, the Tur has a reason that could be used to explain the Rambam as well.
Right.
Since the source is the Rif anyway, for both the Rambam and the Rosh.
Right. Right.
By the way, what was the name of, you told me the name of the Rambam's, who did the Rambam's father learn with again? Who was a student of the Rif?
I wrote here in the beginning. He learned. Yeah, I yeah.
Just wondering what the Masorah was.
The Rimigash. You see, his father, the Rambam's father, who's not mentioned here, but he learned with the Rimigash.
Okay.
Right. And the Rimigash learned from the Rif.
Okay.
It's really the Masorah. And the Rush also followed the Rif, but necessarily the Rambam. Okay. He knew the Rambam. The Rambam was the generation right before, but he directly commented on the Rif. Some people say he wrote, although in our Gemara, it's just in the back of the Gemara as if it's following the Seder of the Gemara. Some people hold that he really wrote the book on the Rif. But that, be that as may. But he
That would explain, yeah. That definitely. I mean, I like that because that would explain then why he doesn't explicitly say how he's moving away from the Rif within the halacha itself, and then why we need the Beit Yosef to come in and explain what's going on behind the scenes. In other words, that he's not giving a psak. He's just commenting on the Rif. So it's,
right. Well, although I hear what you mean. You're saying that he's just a commentary, but the Rush is more than a commentary in the sense that he tries to bring things to a conclusion. So, like here, we had a machlokus between the Rif and Rabbeinu Tam, and he was machriya according to the Rif. So he wants to bring the halacha to a conclusion. He doesn't want to leave it open and say, well, the Rif holds this way, and who cares about the Rabbeinu Tam? Remember, he really is from that line. I mean, genetically, let's say, right? Here's Rashi's grandchildren, Rebbeinu Tam, and then the Merami Rottenberg, and there's the Rush, you see. And then unfortunately his Rebbe was thrown in jail and died there, and then the pirates, whoever came after him, so he hightailed it out of there. But that's why I say he's a very interesting mix, because his Masara of learning really came from Ashkenaz. He was an Ashkenazi. He's from Rottenberg.
In this
Where's
halacha,
Rottenberg? Is that hot? No, that's Rotterdam. That's Rotterdam.
Yeah, Rotterdam.
I
think it might be Germany.
It is Germany. It is Germany. Yes, it is Germany. Yes, it's Germany.
The
Rebbeinu Gershon also. The Bali Tosfos started. I mean, not the Bali. The Masorah after the Gaonim, the Ashkenazim started in Germany with Rebbeinu Gershon. Okay, and Rashi was in France, but anyway, whatever. It's an interesting combination. He brings both worlds together, so to speak, the world of lumdus, of learning and analysis, and Pesach Halacha. So, okay. So I'm just saying that he also was a person who was interested in bringing things to a conclusion. He didn't want to.
I think in this case, it's not that he's not bringing it to. I mean, he's not going with Rebbeinu Tam in this case. He is following the Rif.
Exactly.
That is his conclusion. That is his conclusion. But if I like the idea that he writes it as a commentary on the Rif, because then it explains the omission.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
I understand. He doesn't have to write he's not writing like a Rambam and trying to write down every single halacha.
Exactly.
He's trying to explain the shitas of the Rif, and then you have to medayek what the halacha is from what he says.
Right. Which is what his son then does. Right.
Which is what his son does, right. By the way, this Rebbeinu Tam here is, there's Rashi, This Rebbeinu Tam is a little bit of startup, because he's the one that shifted the halacha to Rav Huna. Yeah. But Rashi, it seems, in the Mishnah says if you want to pay with karka, then you pay. But it's not like it's an imperative that you must pay with karka kesef. So, I mean, anyway, there's movement here. Okay, so let's go back to our tour and go a little further down the road. Okay, and these are all, remember, everybody in every succeeding generation is reading what we're reading. They may be able to read better and see more because they have their hands in all these different places in Shas, but it all starts from reading. You have to, what it means is what it is, and that's a very important thing, that we're not going to pull out mystical cards here. Everyone here in dealing with Peshat is being logical, okay? 2 and 2 has to equal 4 here. There's no, well, I got a special, a special communication with Kodesh Baruch Hu. That doesn't exist. It has to be, as we're following down the line, Torah, Mishnah, Gemara, Amarayim, Rishonim. So it's all logically built from those foundations. Okay, so let's read a little more of the tour, okay? Excuse me, not tour, the Beit Yosef on the tour, okay?
The Beit Yosef, yeah.
Yeah. Number 2, this is the second piece in the Beit Yosef.
And where it says, even if he has money, that even where it says that even if he has money, he can pay him with bran, because anything that is movable is considered meitav. Okay, so Mimrei de Rav Papa, Rav Huna de Rav Yeshua. This is what was said by Rav Papa and Rav Huna de Rav Yeshua. The Baba Basra, the Baba Kama. Okay, I can't see the rest here.
No, I'm just thinking, because here he said, even if he has money, he can pay him with subin. But if he has, but wait a minute, but we just said if he has subin and he has meitav, so then he should pay him with the subin, right?
Yeah. that the Bezdin doesn't go into his karka.
Exactly. And here he's saying if he has kesef, he can pay with subin. So now it comes out that kesef and subin are equal, and
Yeah.
meitav is the worst, right?
Is it that it's the worst, or is it that it's that the judges don't want to go into his land?
Okay, he's
It's
not
not that,
learning. He's not learning that. The way he's learning, it looks like we're learning from. We just learned from Balchov that Betaltlin is better than meitav karka, right?
wasn't it also because the judges should not have to go into his property?
He
It's
didn't
not
make that.
whether
We said that. We said that. But he's not learning that way. We said, well,
what's lashon? I can't see the text above.
I'm sorry.
I thought it was like the Rambam's text.
Let's look at the. Go ahead, read the Torah. Keshabayin lahagvos l'nezikim l'nisk. Keshabayin lahagvot l'nizak nisk. When we come to collect for the nizak his damage, roanim yesh lamazik metaltlin. We see the based in right. Rowan. We see who's Rowan.
Yeah.
We see yesh lamazik metaltlin. Then ein yordan l'nefsalim kokarkasav. And we don't go.
Which implies.
Yeah.
It implies what the Rambam is saying, right? That we don't trouble the mazik by going into his property and taking it away.
Exactly.
So it's not. It doesn't mean that karka is worse. I just want to stress that it's not a question of karka being better or worse. It's a question of the trouble that we don't want to put the mazik through.
Oh, we're protecting the mazik, I guess.
Right. It's not that karka is worse. I mean, karka could be just as good.
But then how is that a Reb Papa? Reb Papa said,
well,
Kol
it is
relay.
Reb Papa. Reb Papa is saying they're all the same. Reb Papa is making an inclusive claim. He's saying don't exclude subin from the equation. But he's not saying meitav is worse, is he? He's just saying he's being inclusive with Papa.
Well, wait a minute. I don't understand. I don't know. Let's go again. Spell this out. So let's spell this out. What's going on here?
I mean, this is a kind of position within Reb Papa, right? This is the whole thing is based here on bringing in a logic which really belongs to Balchov, it seems. Maybe not. I'm not sure about that. But Reb Papa is giving us the maximally inclusive position.
Which is what?
Which is that meitav, kesef, and subin are all good.
What does it mean they're all good?
They're all good from the standpoint of the one who's being paid. The nizak has nothing to lose. I mean, nothing significant to lose in getting any one of those three items. They're all good forms of exchange, all good ways to be paid back. From the nizak's position, that's where Rav Papa seems to me speaking it's all from the nizak's position. That's why he's being inclusive. Otherwise, why be inclusive? What's the point of inclusivity here? Now, within that position, begins this qualification, which I see in the Tur as well as the Rambam, which is that, okay, fine, from the nizak's position, they're all good, but what about from the mazik's position? What about when we have to take him to court? What do we do? Do we start expropriating his property so that he can pay back? Is it necessary to go that far? And the general feeling is that the Tur and the Rambam are saying, no, that's as a last resort. We'll go into his property. So but from the nizak's position, it might be great. Why not? Go for his property. I like his property. But it's just from the standpoint of the mazik now standing in court and considering his discomfort, that meitav is then knocked down below kesef.
Okay, but if that's true, what's the source of that din?
Balchov?
But Balchov I don't understand. Balchov said that
Yeah,
the Malva wants the metaltalin more. I mean, if he wants the metaltalin more, he can get it. So we're not
right.
look, who is who in the equation here, right? The lova is equal to the mazik in this equation, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to be nice to the mazik here by saying, okay, we won't touch your land, we'll go to the metaltalin first, right? So that's very nice, but where'd you get it from? You can't say you got it from the malva. Of course, the malva's like the nizak, and the malva has a right to get what he wants, metaltalin first if he wants it, more than the karka.
Yeah, it seems to be like some sort of chitzona here. That just because there was a shift in language when we got to the Rambam and the Tur, which I don't recall the other ones, which is that we're looking at it now from the standpoint of a din, of a day in court, and of the trouble of the judges having to force the mazik to go into his property. The others didn't phrase it in those legislative, not legislative, what's the right word? Litigational.
Right.
The question of litigation was not brought up until the Rambam and the Tur. It just wasn't a major issue. The only issue was what is fair in terms of actual items. But once we brought litigation as an issue as such in itself, suddenly the Rambam and the Tur are saying, well, let's not really bother this guy by taking away his property, unless, of course, we really have to.
Okay.
This, by the way, this whole position is definitely, I mean, very minimally here, it's definitely against Rav Huna.
Yeah. Rav Huna's out of the picture here.
Yeah, because he
holds Subin is your last choice.
He includes, well, not just that, but I'm saying he puts Meitav. I don't think I can say, he wouldn't say Meitav is it's an option for you to give Meitav, last. Because Meitav is really on par with Kesef. Oh, no, wait, yeah, it's Meitav and Kesef, right? And Subin is at the bottom, right?
Yeah. It's not this picture here.
So, right, so for Rav Huna, by putting Subin at the bottom, so in a way he's saying he's not giving anybody the option of not dipping into his property, right?
Right. He's saying
you
first go to Kesef and Meitav, and if you don't have, then you go to Subin.
Right.
This is definitely not Rav
Right.
Huna. I mean, as simply as we understand it. But
Right. So it's all within
Rav Papa's world.
So it's all within. Right. It's exactly Rav Papa's world, and within that world, it's the first time that we're talking about litigation. But
and
where
what was Papa talking
true,
about?
By the way, he's talking about equivalences. Like he's speaking only economically. I guess that's not quite right either. It's not.
But
just
he's also talking legally. But what's the difference between his legality and this legality that we're talking about in the Rambam and the Tur? I mean, he's not talking about out of court. By the way, all Nezikin has to be done in court. You can't judge Nezikin by yourself. You need a base din to judge Nezikin. You can't
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Maybe can I suggest this? I don't know if this is right though, but Rav Papa's big chiddush seems to have been to factor in Subin, where that was not necessarily an option, right? His big move is to include Subin, right?
Well, and we know Subin is a factor. We just his
Not for Rav Huna.
No, Rav Huna, everybody holds that there's three elements here because there's three words in the Pesukim. They all exist. The only question is what is the relationship of the parts. So I don't know what.
So what's
I mean, there's a pasuk for each one. The question is now, what must you give?
So it seems what I mean is that Rav Papa's position makes things easy for the mazik. Because the question, see, why did we want to exclude Subin to begin with? Because it was not comfortable for the Nizak to get Subin. So Rav Papa comes in and he says, you know what, they're all equivalent, it's all good. It's all forms of exchangeable, fungible stuff.
Well,
So
hold on. Let's be a little more careful here. It was the Brisa that said Yoshev that included Subin.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Right.
So it had nothing to do with Reb Papa. Reb Papa was answering the problem of how can you give. Why must you give? How can the Torah say on one hand you can give Subin, and the other hand it comes to land you say it has to be the best. That's where Reb Papa came in. That was a bias problem. Those two things don't go together. You have to give the best of your land, and you give the worst of your movables. Those things come together. Either the worst of the movables, give the worst of your land. The best of your land, give the best of your movables at least. Or don't give movables at all. But
what I mean is this: that before the Baraisa was brought in, the kind of default position was the very, very earliest position was that giving Meitav Aretz is really for the benefit of the Nizak. We don't want to let off the Mazik too easily. So make him give the best of his land. And then Rav Papa's position at the end was in a way the most generous towards the Mazik and saying the whole point of bringing in the Baraisa was to make things possible for the Mazik, to make it more comfortable for the Mazik to pay back what he's damaged.
No,
So
I think you could learn totally the opposite way, which is really just to help the Nizak. The Nizak is supposed to get money. The Nizak should really be paid. Okay. Since you're right that let's spell it out. The Nizak should get cash. So you're right by saying that the Mazik can give metaltalin, then the Nizak is not getting cash. You're right. It's being friendly to the Mazik, and it's being hurtful to the Nizak. You're right.
So if that's Reb Papa's general standpoint, is to be accommodating to the Mazik, so to me, my whole point of saying this is that it's not surprising that at the end of that road, or at least not at the end, but at the point that we are now, which is where we have both the Rambam and the Tur, within that general attitude of Rav Papa of being accommodating towards the Mazik. So they're saying, look, now we have the Mazik in court. Let's not put him on the rack here. It's difficult to give land. It's the most difficult thing of all to go and start going to his property and start taking it away. So we'll continue in the spirit of Rav Papa to accommodate him when the issue is one of legislative, not of litigational comfort. See what I'm saying? Maybe it's a stretch. I don't know if
it is a little bit of a stretch, but let's spell it out. I like to spell these things out. But let's spell it out completely. You're saying, okay, it's true that we should have started off, according to Reb Papa, that the only thing that the Mazik should give is kesef to the Nizak. Then the Nizak will be very happy because he has the money to go replace his cow or buy something else. It's the best thing to give him. Okay. Now, the Torah goes out of its way and says, no, Mr. Nizak, you can also use Shavak Kesef, even Subin. We're going to be so nice to you that we're going to let you even give Shavak Kesef and even Subin. Why? Because that's very close to Kesef. Even Subin is close to Kesef because, okay, if the Nizak wants to get his money, he'll just go to the next town or he'll find somewhere. He'll always get his money back. Okay? So now we say, Mazik, we're even going to be more friendly to you. We're going to let you give your land to the Nizak as payment. It becomes a little difficult to do with it. But what? The Mazik now we're going to say you can even give your land.
What do you mean? Wait, this is who's...
Really, you should be... The Reb Papa is saying, look, really, we should not let the Mazik give land. because it's too far away from Kesef. Because the Nizak is going to have to put up a sign and sell it. There's only a few people around, and who knows when he's going to get his money back? 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is. Prices in land go up, prices in land go down. Until he gets all his money back, it's going to take him time. So really, Rav Papa says we shouldn't be nice to the mazik and give him land at all. So the Torah says, okay, but we'll even be nicer to you if you give the best land. So then all the chesronot of land will go away because the few guys around will jump on it. So that'll be equal to being able to move your metalton from place to place, let's say, or less. That'll be the problem. But that seems the way Rav Papa's learning. Land should have been out completely. The Torah should never have given the mazik the right to give the nizak land. Of course, the nizak won't get his money back. Came along the Torah, said yes. We'll now stretch a little further and say you can give the meitav land. So in that scenario, the meitav was a stretch. We weren't trying to protect the mazik by saying, oh no, you want to hold on to your land, and therefore when the Beis Din comes, that's the last thing we're going to take. It was saying you can even give land if you want. Okay, at what point, when, that's a whole problem now. But you can even give your best land. It was a consideration to the mazik to give your best land. So now you're saying, well, since the Torah is considering the feelings of the mazik and letting him off by giving the best land, maybe we should use that svara and say when the nizak or the Beis Din wants to collect for some reason, I don't know, at first we were saying the mazik can give everything, but now you're telling me somehow this legal court system comes in and is trying to grab the mazik's property. So there we say, well, no, we have to, since the Torah sort of was trying to help the mazik by giving him this leniency of giving the best land, we'll help the mazik because he wants to keep his land and say that he can keep his land and we're going to take his money first. And different worlds here operating, right?
It's true, but it's funny that it's the opposite. It's either way. It seems to be a consideration towards the mazik, but it's totally the opposite type of consideration. Or rather, the scenarios are different. See why? It's funny that assuming that both the Rambam and the Tur are within the world of Rav Papa, isn't it a little bit strange that they seem to be in their consideration towards their mazik? They say, look, don't go into this guy's property. That it's the opposite scenario than Rav Papa is raising, which is that we want to let the guy use his property to pay back.
Yeah, exactly.
But even though the scenario, what's the difference in the two scenarios? In Rav Papa's scenario, the guy would like to pay back with land, and in the Tur and the Rambam, he doesn't want to pay back with land.
Exactly. Right? That's very well said. Yes. So,
but in both cases, so it's weird that you would think, oh, wait a minute, so how could the Tur and the Rambam find themselves within the world of Rav Papa? They can't be. It seems like the opposite, and yet the similarity is that they're both being considerate to the mazik. And the difference is that we're talking about two different temperaments on the part of the mazik, two different maziks.
And we need a source, and we need a source for the Rambam. You know what I mean? He can't just say that if it's not Rav Papa.
Right.
If that's not Rav Papa's intent, so how could the Rambam pop up and say it? It could, like you said, it's two different channels. We're being easy on the mazik by saying you can even give your best, but mashma that he doesn't. Mashma that what? That he wants to keep the land or he doesn't want to keep the land? Would he rather give the land or not? It seems that Rav Papa is saying, sure you'd like to give the land. Just give the best. But sure you'd like to give the land. And really, the Torah would say you can't give the land. Even if you want to, you can't give the land. But the Torah says, okay, give the meitav, so you can give the land. But it's not what the mazik wants to give up. It's what he's allowed to give. It's a chiddush to say that he can give the best land. And they're saying that when we collect from the metaltalin first, because the mazik doesn't want to give his land. He wants to hold on to his land. Where do they get it from?
What's going on?
Okay, so let's read a little further and become educated. This is the problem, by the way. You know, other people are going to answer. They're going to answer differently than this, than the Beit Yaakov, than the Yosef Cairo. They have other answers. I mean, they even say because we're talking about when the mazik's not in town. And it's one answer to smile. We're going to get to it. The mazik's not in town. That's why. But why does the Beis Din have to go and get his property? Why does the mazik just come up and give his stuff? Right? Let the mazik come and give the metaltalin if he wants to give it. So I believe it's a Smai says, well, we're talking about a case where the mazik is not here, and we, the judges, have to take something from him. So between metaltalin and karka, we say, what would he have given first? Oh, he would have given his metaltalin before the karka, so we'll do the two. So really, it's Reb Papa. You can give all three equally, but since the mazik's not around, we, the Beis Din, have to figure what he would have preferred to give, and he would have preferred to give the metaltalin over the karka. I mean, that's an answer. I mean, that's we call one of the and that's in the Shulchan Aruch thing. Smai, I believe, gives that as an answer. But this is a very serious problem here.
Even that answer, though, doesn't get out of the general question of what is preferable. Just as a general...
No, it says they're all preferable. The mazik can give what he wants, like Reb Papa said, like we always thought. The mazik can give metaltalin, and he can give meitav karka, whatever he wants. But when the mazik's not around, and we have to now collect for the nizak, because this guy, split town for a while, went on vacation, and was not around. So we, the Beis Din, now have to decide what would the mazik have given.
But you see, I understand. But why would we say that the Beis Din would say opposite of what Rav Papa's position? I mean, Rav Papa's general position is that he wants to give. Of course, he would want to give land. So why wouldn't the Beis Din go with that and say, okay, the guy's away. He probably.
How do you know he would want to give land?
Well, we don't know, but I'm saying either way, the Beit Din has to establish a default position, right? Like a kind of, in the absence of the knowledge, this is what we have to assume any normal human being would want. Because after all, he might want to give up land. He might not want to give up metaltalin. He's saying, wait a minute, that's my favorite, Chesterfield there. What are you doing? Give me a piece of land instead. So how would we derive that position that as a general default position is a Beit Din gives away anything but land? When Rav Papa is saying the opposite. I mean, see what I'm saying? That the question is still...
Let's now refine this a little bit, because this is what we have to talk about. It's very important what we're talking about. We're glancing over a point here we have to really clarify here. One point is, what is mutar for the mazik to give as a payback? That's one point. What is mutar? So he has the choice to give A, B, or C, kesef, meitav, or metaltalin, right? Any one that he gives, that's his complete choice. He can give A, B, or C. That's his choice, right? Now there's another question, which is, what would he normally like to give? That's another question. The one question is, what is acceptable as a payback? So all three things were acceptable as a payback. Now we have another question. If I ask you, what would the mazik prefer to give if he had, since he does have this choice, but what would he prefer to give? That's a different question altogether. There we could say he would prefer to give his metaltalin over the land. It's a different question, is what he would prefer to do, right?
It totally makes sense. It's just that then, how did that consideration come into all of this? It seems to come in at the level of the Rambam and the Torah. That's where it shows up, right? The very issue of what would he prefer to do. I mean, it seems
Right.
that question is implied.
Right. That's a new question. That's a new question. It's a new question. We haven't dealt with this question up to this point. Right? We haven't dealt with the question of what he would prefer to do. We only dealt with the question is what he's allowed to do.
So where did the Rambam and the Torah get the question? Never mind the answer.
And why do they write this way? You know what I mean? Again, this is very bothering because I thought the Rambam was writing a book to help people know the simple halacha, right? He's giving you a kitzur shulchan aruch over here, right?
Yeah.
In the end, he's being so medactic in his words that, really, he didn't even write the basic din. The basic din is you can give everything, any A, B, or C. But he's writing in a case where the mazik is not around, or what the base din has a right to do, and then we have to worry about what preferences would if the mazik was here, what would he be his preferences? Okay, it's all chasam and a sefer. You know what I mean? It's all gone. You know what I mean? It's a world that is, it's created from the word the base din is now obligated to collect. But the reason why we're getting over here is because where do we see there's any preference of metaltalin over karka? That's the basic problem in the Rambam, the basic problem in this tour. For some reason, the X reason, you give metaltalin over karka. Now that's definitely doesn't seem to be Rav Huna, that's for sure, because he says you give karka over metaltalin, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be Reb Papa either, because Reb Papa seems to say that you can give all three. Where do you see not so? So what they're going to do, what the Ramah did, was that, wait a minute, you don't understand the svara of Reb Papa. The svara of Reb Papa was the thing that's closer to kesef is the thing that you have to give. That's why money is first. He didn't talk about money. That was obvious. And then metaltalin you must give second if you don't have money. And third, you give karka. So you say, well, that doesn't fit into the spirit of the words, right? Because you say the basin is collecting. It goes down to the metaltalin before the karka, as if we're trying to help the mazik out here. That seems to be the spirit of the language, right? That's how we started this thing, right?
Yeah.
You said, wait a minute. It's very nice that Reb Papa, you want to now just push into Reb Papa because what the Ramah said, that everything closer to Kesef has a higher preference. Very nice. So why did the Rambam talk this way?
Well, it's still consistent with trying to protect the mazik. That's still consistent. It's all within the parameters of being nice to the mazik, but
from a different angle.
Yeah, because as you say, it's no longer a question of what is allowable to the mazik, but what would he prefer? What would he like?
Right.
Is it possible that there's a historical consideration here? In other words, nothing that the Rambam or the Torah are saying contradicts Rav Papa. It's not that it's a new question, right? So within Rav Papa's world, it's a new question. So could it be that just the way people understood land in Gullus require this question?
But then you're not writing. You see, this is the main point that I keep getting back to. I thought they're writing a kitzur shulchan aruch. You know what I mean? They're trying to say, look, you guys don't know how to learn. You don't know if the halacha is like Rabbeinu Tam, the halacha is like the Rif, right? So I'm going to tell you the conclusion. Okay, I'm going to do it a little different than the Rif because I'm going to put all the halachas together. But still, I read all the Heim Chayenu. Where are we doing it from? We're doing it from the Amoraim, from the Gemara. But you can't read the Gemara and understand it. I'm putting it together. So I'm not making allowances for the present day situation, which maybe things have changed, or I'm just trying to bring down what they said. And my main point is I'm trying to be clear about it. Talk about what they say and then make your extension. Okay, you could say, but nowadays, because of whatever story, say what you want to say. But first tell me the basic halacha.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that we're now in stage 2 in a different era, or what the base then, the mazik's not here. And all. I mean, you can say those things, but
Spell it out.
Yeah, spell it out. Make it. I mean, although, did you read the Rambam? You read the Rambam, and you see, my feet is a little wet here in Kedushin and in the Gemara. I'm not Kedushin, but Bakam in the Gemara. So when you read the Rambam, he's not spelling everything out. I mean, I thought he was going to write, like a Shulchan Aruch. I mean, the Torah does expand the halacha much more. But the Rambam is very, very, very brief. I mean, he's almost writing, as we said, Mishnah Torah. It's almost like a Mishnah. He's not writing a tour, that's for sure. He's not spelling out all the cases or all the possibilities, all the relationships. He's writing at a very high level over there. So his abbreviation is still a very, very significant abbreviation. That's all I'm saying. And maybe that's why these people are willing to read into him. Anyway, let's go a little further in the Beit Yosef, okay? And sometimes, it helps to get the bigger picture. We have to go zoom in and zoom out, and just see where. So let's see what they say now. Umash ketuv afilu sheyesh lo kesev, even if he has kesev, yochel l'shalma b'subin, to call mili the call mili meitavu, right? So that's what the Torah said. The Torah said. Let's read the Torah again. Here's the Torah. Keshuban lahagbos lenizak nisko. We want to collect for the nizak is damage. Rowan. We see. Im yesh the mazik metaltalin. If he has metaltalin, the mazik ain't yordan linechasab limkor karkasab. We don't go down to his land to sell his land. Ella yiten lo metaltalin. What do? We give his metaltalin. V'filu sheyesh lo kesev, and even if this mazik has kesev, yochol l'shalmo b'subin. It's a very strange halacha. Now, if he has kesev, he can pay with subin, right? Because kol milah meitav ninu, because it's subin. Subin is called meitav. So if he has kesev, the mazik has the right. Now he's not. Now you can't say he's split down, right? It says v'afilu sheish lo kesev yochel l'shalmo. He who the mazik can pay with subin. So it's a very this is like the mazik seems to be here. So according to this, if the mazik has karka and metaltalin, then we don't tell him, or I don't say go yordu. Well, we don't tell him that he must pay with the karka. You don't have to sell your karka. You can do it with metaltalin. And even if you have kesev, you could still give metaltalin. So it looks like if he has kesev or metaltalin, he can give either one, right? Even subin. If he has kesev, he can even give subin, right? Anything. But we don't go down to the meitav. We first say, do you want to give your kesef? You want to give subin? Fine. If not, so then we have to go down to the karka and tell him, look, sell it. I don't want to sell it. I don't want to sell it. Tough luck. If you don't want to give kesef and subin, so We're going to go to your karka, I suppose. So if he has kesef or metaltalin, he can give either one, kesef or even subin. And he doesn't have to give his karka. He doesn't have kesef and subin, so he has to give his karka. Okay? So let's see what does he say? Vafilu sheyesh lo kesef, even if he has kesef, he can use it. What does the Beit Yosef say here? Let's look here. I'm going to split the page. I know this would happen before with the page, but I used to have a thing that brings it together. Okay, anyway, let's just move it down. Oh, that's all he says. Okay. U'ma shekatuv v'afilu sheyesh lo kesef yochel l'shalma b'subin dekol mileitav hu. That's the mamra of Reb Papa, Reb Huna b'Rei Reb Yeshua. B'perakama de Baba Kama. That's, our Gemara, time of base, right?
Right.
So we have to keep track of all these things, That's the problem here. We have these three variables, and how are they interaction? How are they interacting? When it came to metaltalin and karka, see, we have kesef. We have these three. How many combinations do we have here? If we have three variables, 3 times 1, I think, right? Something like that. You remember the formula?
3 times
the factor.
Factorial.
It's a
Factorial is 3 times 2 times 1.
So that's 6. There's 6 possibilities here, right? Of what this mazik can have.
Not just possibilities of what comes in front of the other, like A, B, C, A, C, B, B, C, A, B.
Yeah, but it's not what's greater than the other one, right? Well, if we say in front means greater than. But anyway, let's go back over this tour, okay? Or this Beit Yosef, okay? The Beit Yosef says in the relationship between metaltalin and karka, what is it? That you take the metaltalin before the karka. How do we know that? Shabanim going Rowan and Yeshan and metaltalin. Ein yornik kaselim karkasav eliyitem metaltalin. Now, Kain kasev arush beperakama baba kama leinian prius balchov v'zel shano. Well, leinian prius balchov nearly the isle lova metaltalin umi karkae kafinin le lemesav le metaltale im chofetz behen amal v'yotem mi bekarka kaven de leyehiv shakukol midi de makriv lezuze v'hainu metaltalin the ilo mizdaven hachmizdaven lemasachrina. So when it comes to the relationship of metaltalin and karka, according to the Beit Yosef, the Tur took that relationship from what the Rush said in Balchov. In Balchov, you take whatever's closer to Kesef. And therefore, and he quotes, and that seems to be also Reb Papa's position. That's probably why he moves it into Reb Papa. So if I want to know the relationship of metaltalin and karka, I say you give the mazik, you give the nizak the thing that's closest to kesef, which is karka, right?
Which is what? No.
Which is metaltalin. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the relationship between money and metaltalin, there he says they're equal. There we don't make that distinction. And there he learns it from Reb Papa.
Yeah. Well, that is Reb Papa.
How do you know it's
That
Reb
makes
Papa?
sense.
Maybe Reb Papa says that money is greater than metaltalin. He never spoke about money. He never spoke about money.
Well, he didn't speak about money, but Karka, he made an allowance for Karka, which put Subin beforehand.
Right,
So,
very good,
so-
because he said in his words, if you remember Reb Papa, he said, what was Reb Papa's words? You remember his words? And in fact, he eliminated, I'm just being with you, he eliminated Karka, right?
Not eliminate. He allowed.
He says, Ahavamina that no Karka was good, right?
Yeah, he's saying that he should pay with Subin, or he should pay with metaltalin, and if and there's an allowance to also pay with Karka, if he wants to, but really he should pay with metaltalin. So it seems to be like a svar chitzona, like at an external, some type of commonsensical conclusion that if he's allowing you to pay with metaltalin, and he's specifying that Karka is the second best, it stands to reason that Kesef is obvious. It's the obvious way to pay. See what I'm saying? Because he's it's funny. It's an implication. Because he's placing Subin first before Karka and allowing for Karka. So really, the whole consideration is about how to convert it to Kesef anyway, which implies that Kesef is the best.
So I want to bring even a better raya from the law, because if you remember, Kiyas Repershua. Kol mile meitav hu. That means all movables are meitav. Di lo mizdamen hach mizdamen b'masa chrisa. Lebar mi'ara. All things, if you can even translate the word mile. Mile means things, okay? All things are good except for land. Land is not good. So he already is putting land in a lower position. Really, the Sfera Chitzona is land should not be permissible because it's too hard to get your money back.
Right. What's his final position though? Is it just 1 and 2 there, or is there?
No, he says, the lace of le meitav, the Torah says, let him give meitav, ki chechit lekofetz alai zvine.
Right. So it's only as a second best if you want to give land. In that case, it should be meitav.
Right.
Because then at that point, it's the only point at which land starts to behave like movables or money.
But it still comes underneath.
Sure.
Really, you see, we didn't learn that way. We learned that land is underneath, but this compensation makes it equal to metaltalin, right? That's how we've been learning, simply, right? Right?
Yeah.
But if you read him more carefully, he'll say, really, land is not called meitav because it doesn't have the ability to get your money back. What's meitav? Things where you can get your money back quickly, let's say. But land is that you can't get your money back quickly. The Torah came along and said, okay, give meitav so that the buyers will jump at it. So that what's that called? A more demand. You increase your demand not by the amount of people, but by the excitement about the product. So we thought that that meant that now it's equal, that Meitav is equal to Subin. But the way they're learning is, no, it never became. It was just another consideration for the mazik that he can also give it. In other words, it won't be so bad. It won't be so bad to the nizak. It gets closer to what metaltalin is. Just like metaltalin gets closer to kesef, you can sell it, but it's not exactly kesef. So too, karka, the meitav karka, gets closer to the metaltalin, but it's not equal to. But it gets closer to. So the Torah is allowing that one level down. It's like the Chiddush, the Svar Chitzona starts with Kesef, then it comes to include the Chiddush of Shaveh Kesef, and then comes to include the Chiddush of Meitav. But those are Chidushim that are not Chidushim of equality, but Chidushim of inclusion, even though they're lower levels, but they're not so low that the Nizak won't get his money back. When it comes to Beinadis and Zibris land, of course, oh, no. There already it falls off the board, because that's not like money at all. That's too far away from money to allow it.
Yes, wait, but you could, I hear what you're saying, but in a way, see, we have to distinguish between karka simpliciter, as they say. If we're talking about just karka generally, obviously karka is not even in the equation. It's so low, it's not even in the equation. So and when Meitav brings it into the equation, in a way it is equal. It's just that it's only equal if it's qualified. See what I'm saying? Land is not equal, but Meitav is equal. Meitav is not the same thing as land, because
Meitav is land.
I know, but if we're putting land, if we're saying what's better, money, land, or movables, so obviously land it's so bad it's not even there. But if I say what's better, money, the best land or movables, so because I've qualified land as best land, so it is equivalent.
Okay, I mean you could say no, you
yeah,
can't say that. Definitely,
yeah.
you definitely could say
only, but it is a kind of bidi. I know what you're saying. It's a bidi type of position.
Because we knocked it out. When we knocked it out, we said it's not called Meitav, right? Call Mile Meitav. It's not called Meitav. Forget about it. And it's not called Meitav. It's not called good. Why is it not called the best? Because it's too far away from things. So came along the Torah and said, okay, the Meitav of the land is equal to the Meitav of the Subin, because But you see what we're playing with here? Now there's room. There's room to manipulate here. You see, I mean not manipulate. There's room to understand the.
What's interesting here is that Rav Papa's position. It's almost as if at first we're focusing, or I at least was focusing on the nouns to find out what is better or worse. But reading it now, it's clear that, to me anyway, that the verb mizdavin is really the Archimedean point here. You know what I mean? Rav Papa is saying that money is the best, but he doesn't say it explicitly because he doesn't mention it in noun form.
Exactly.
In nouns, he only talks about meitav, and he talks about metaltalin. But the word mizdavin is really the key term here, because the whole thing spins on it. It's all about how do I sell this in the marketplace, whether it's metaltalin or land. So really, kesef is on top.
Right, and that's what the Ramah, by the way, that's the words of the Ramah, at least brought in the Ran. It's exactly what we're saying. That's exactly what he said. He said if you read exactly this word mizdabein, which he translated as mizuman, in other words, how would you say mizuman in Hebrew, in English? It's present. Mizuman.
Isn't invited like a mizuman?
No, it means all that a mizuman mean those who are present.
That's mizuman.
No,
Oh, maybe it is present, like is it
No, it
related
is.
to
It's
Zman?
present. Whoever the Mizuman,
Yeah,
those people who are present, from the word Zman, I suppose.
yeah,
I
like the
mean,
word present.
they're yeah, present, but it's even better because it comes from the word Zman. But
No, but the word
for
present also
instance,
comes from time.
yeah, you're right. So,
It's
but
like the
they talk
present
about it
tense.
with the shalach, with the bird there. The din of
uh,
that is only if it's zuman, but not if you have a bird cage, for instance. It has to be something zuman you chance upon it or happen upon
uh-huh.
it, or it happens to be there. It's an interesting, but anyway, but
Okay.
that's what he translates as mizdamen. He says it's things
Uh-huh.
that are more present, more here and now, are closer to money. Money is the best thing because that's the most, of course. That's the thing that is here and now. And the metaltalin is closer because it's closer to being here and now.
That's
And
interesting.
the karka is further away, but the best will make it close enough to be here and now. So you see, so
Can I give you a piece
yeah,
of
go ahead.
philosophy that there's a, this is from very modern German philosophy, a guy named Heidegger, who makes a distinction in, this is something that goes beyond Aristotelian physics, which would talk about objects, about, chefza, like this is a chefza, that's a chefza. So Heidegger says, you know what, there are certain objects that we can't understand as chefza. For example, a hammer. A hammer has a quality of being to it which is closer than a chefza, because a chefza, the way he puts it in German, is the difference between vorhanden sein and zuhanden sein, which they translate as present to hand and ready to hand. He says because a hammer is ready to hand. In other words, it's a tool, and because it's a tool, in a way, it's closer to me than any given object, simply because I make use of it. I'm employing it. See what I mean? It's not. A hammer has no value as an artifact. It's not making my house prettier. It's a pointless lump. But as soon as I put it in my hand, it becomes incredibly useful, like any tool. So it could be that money has the same quality. That money in itself is worthless. Like it doesn't, like what's, in a barter economy, what's money? I mean, what's gold? What's silver? It's pointless. Give me a sheep. I can do something with a sheep. Money seems to be like the farthest thing, and yet money is actually the closest thing because it's the most exchangeable thing. It's the most fungible object. So it's the most
Useful.
tool-like object. Yeah,
It's the most
exactly.
useful.
Yeah, and that's what makes it closest. Like glasses on a person's nose, They're so close, and so you don't even know they're there.
On use, okay. Beseda.
Yeah.
All right, we have to think about it. But okay, but here you see what's interesting here is that the words are conveying a message, but the message there's room in between the words to explain the message. Like, this is what I'm saying, that there's a hole that has to be filled. It's not a simple hole. There's a hole here because when we said give the best of land in order that the buyers will jump at it, did that make it an equivalent in reality to the Shavah Kesef? In other words, what the Shavah Kesef gains by having its movability to go around to many people, the Meitav Karka gains by its desirability, and therefore they're equated? Or no, it's a lesser form because it doesn't have the amount of people, but it doesn't fall so far down that it falls out of being similar to Kesef. Just like metaltalin didn't fall out and was allowed because it can be converted to money, albeit with little tircha. The best land also is the next step down, and it may be allowed, but only in a position below. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like very interesting that Rabbi Goldstein used to say there's a lot of room in between the atoms.
Right.
That's his phrase he used to use. So too,
Right.
there's room in between the atoms here, and this is really why there's a machlokas. We've shown him here on how to learn Rav Papa, because when you read Rav Papa quickly, of course it's an equivalent. First of all, he didn't talk about kesef, but it's obviously that because the only problem was Meitav and Subin, but he made them equivalent. And of course it's equivalent to kesef. That's the quickest way to do it. Now, if we see the rush, the beauty of the rush is that he moved from svara to text. Now, we discussed that when we went through it. In other words, he would much rather get a written proof than a svara. That means a conceptual proof. I mean, that's the strongest. If we can get some text that forces the position, that's the best, right? Because then the text says it. But if we can't, so then we're going to have to understand what the text says in and of itself. If there's a problem here, we're going to have to decide, I don't know, what sounds better if we can't find some other source. Anyway, very, very exciting, very exciting. Let's see if you have a little more time going.
I told I'm so lost now. Well, yeah, because I just want to ask you this one question at least. I mean, do we have anything explicit? I don't remember anymore.
That what?
Kesef on top. In other words, is there in the Gemara itself, is there any statement that clearly puts Kesef before anything else?
They want to learn, and we didn't do this Gemara. We have to do it together because, it's very hard to do this in a literal way, generation after generation, because the things are happening simultaneously. But there's a Gemara where remember the Malva comes to the Lova and he says, "Please give me my loan back. I loaned you $100. I want it back." So the Lova says, "Well, I don't have any money." So the Malva says, "Well, what's all that stuff on your table? Looks like money to me."
Yeah,
he says, "No, that's the goyish stuff." So from there, they want to say, "Hey, you see that kesef is a priority. If it wasn't for the fact that it belonged to the guy, then he would have to have given it."
That's the text that the Tur brings in through his father, in effect. But how does that tell us that kesef is better than either Meitav or Metaltalin?
Now, we don't have the Ramah. If you remember, the Ramah, you see, if you look at the only person that came close to handling this problem, Ramah, with a hey. You see, he's the only person that came close to handling it. Let's see what he says. Okay?
Yeah, please. I'm trying to remember.
I'm sure you don't remember. It's very hard. He says like this. This is the Ethan and Beit Yosef or the Ran. V'kasav harama with a hey. I added the word nazikin. Or the matzi hivle afilu subin. Hani mili heicha de leisle lemazik zuze. He makes a statement. The only time you can give subin if the mazik doesn't have kesef. So he says kesef is better than subin. Right? So far, no proof. No proof. Right? Aval heicha de isle lemazik zuze lo matzi ledache le lenizak bezuze. But if the mazik has zuze, then he can't push him down to anything except zuze. He must pay. If he has zuze, he must pay, right? That's all. That's it. But who din lemalchov? The balchov is the same way. If the balchov have kesef, he can't push him down to zuze, right? And then he says, what about mechaktos? He says the mechaktos. So that's that. The guy tries to pull a wool over another guy. Say that's called like a goslin. He's trying to steal from the lokeach, and the goslin is one of the 24 nezikins, right? And we said in Perikocher Gabi Hamoche Shur Lechavaro Ilek Letishluim Minei Lishkol Torah Bezuze Ubehedja Amrina. And here's the point: we didn't get Gemara yet. We'll eventually have to get into it. Dei Isle Lezuze Lo Matzi Omalei Shakol Torah Bezuze. his conclusion, without getting into the words in Mekach Tos, is that if the mocher has zuzeh, he can't say to the person who he ripped off, "Oh, just take that ox that I gave you and you go and sell it, get your money back." If he has money, the mocher has to pay. Now here, this, I don't know if this, I think the Ramah stopped over there. I think this is the Ran, the order of Beit Yosef. And he says like this, the Gabi Baal Chov Nami Mashma, how do we know that the Baal Chov has a preference of money over Tatlin? Because in Perak HaKosev, Dafav, which we didn't do either, Gabi Ahuda told him Asa Benachri. That's the case I told you. The guy says, well, no, the money on the table is Nachri. But mashma from there, he has to give money before anything else. Okay? V'chein mashma, look what he says here. What? But we still haven't got to our case yet, in Ezekiel.
Okay.
And here we are. This is the Ran. V'chein mashma lishna damricha. I can also make an inference that Kesef is greater than Subin from our case in the Zikin of Rav Papa. Why? Time and mishum de mizdaben de lo mizdaben hacha mizdaben hacha. What's the reason why metaltalin is acceptable? Because if I can't sell it here, I can sell it, he says, how should be hasim in another place. Now, the shmiya minei that we hear from this text of Rav Papa, the kule milta de zemune le lenizak demay, that anything that he has present, that the nizak has present, that's more present equal to money. Excuse me, let me read again. The shminin le de kulo milta de zemune le lenizak demay nezikin bezuze. I think that's a comma. I have to work on this, on how this works. I think it means like this, that everything that's more present for the mazik to money, that's more, I forgot what word we used, but let's use the word present. I don't know a better word. Anything that's more quickly apparent to the mazik that equals money, again, the kula milta de zamune le lenizak dame nezikin bezuze, or is equivalent. Maybe that is equivalent to. I don't know what the dame is here. You can help me out if you can get any better hit on that. Maybe the comma belongs here. Okay. What do we hear from this thing? The even lo mizdan hach mizaz b'makam acher. The shemina minei, the kula milta de zamune lenizak, anything that's more present to the nizak, the may nizikin bezuze, or dami nizikin bezuze, anything that's more, I'm not reading 100% well, but basically what I think he's saying is from that text is that anything that's more, that's more present to the nizak, to money, is what is important. Now he says like this: "V'kaven the mahai taimahu." Since this is the whole thing, which is things which are closer to money, are more important. Mamela mashma the ki isle lemazik zuze machayev leisev le zuze. So there we can understand from the svara of why metaltalin was better than karka, why money is better than metaltalin. Why was metaltalin better than karka? Because it was more mezuman, it was more present, it was more closer to money. That's why it was better than karka. So money, which is even closer to money than karka, certainly should be before metaltalin, right? I mean, that's what he says. But you understand, it's a svara.
By implication.
Well,
Well,
what?
it's an implication. As he
It's
said.
an implication,
It's an implication.
exactly. It's an
Yeah,
implication.
mashma.
But there's no clear Gemara except in Balchov that puts money before. You see, and this is exactly what the Beit Yosef was bringing up. This is what
See,
this
actually, in Mekach Talis, it seems to be even clearer, no? Because there's actually a comparison between a bull and money, and he says, don't pay him back with a bull, give him money. Right? I'm saying, why is it clear in Mekach Talis? Because in Balchov, he gave him money anyway. So what's the issue? I mean, why? You know, he lent him money, so he wants money back. I mean, he didn't lend him Subin. He didn't give him beans.
Right.
But in Mekach Talis, he actually gave him a bull.
Right.
So he could say, look, I'll pay you back with the bull. But he says, no, you pay me back with cash.
Right.
You know, it's because you're paying back. But you know, to me, I don't know, maybe to you know what it makes me think of actually. You know, when Avram Avinu sells when he wants to buy
the cave,
from Ephron, right? So with Ephron, it says, I forget the lashon of the Torah, but it says that he heard him. Whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So in other words, Ephron says, look, what's 400 shkalim here between me and you? So it says, so Avram understood, right? And the word mashma here, like nami mashma hachi, to me operates the same way. It doesn't, just because he didn't say it doesn't mean he didn't mean it.
Exactly.
He definitely, right? So
if you can understand the import of his words, then you understand what he means.
Yeah. So to me, it's just as strong to say, the Isle Zuze. No, sorry, no. When he says, when Rapapa says, when he says the question is going out and selling it. Yeah, I forget the.
This is Rapapa.
Anyway, it's implied.
Call Mile Meitav. Why? He says a svara. The lo mizdaben hachem is masach risei.
Right. So from there, I think the mashma operates there very clearly. Like you hear it in that statement, that mizdaben means that kesef is superior. That's what that. Even though he's not saying, he didn't say kesef adif or anything, but the implication is so strong that how could you read it otherwise?
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what the Ramah is saying in Rapapa. He's saying if you read his words carefully.
By the way, is this Rav Huna? Just to bring Rav Huna back into this for a second, Rav Huna is the one who does make it explicit, right? Unlike Rav Papa.
Yes.
He does say kesef is equivalent to meitav, right? Explicitly.
Yeah. Exactly.
I suppose, I don't know, maybe reaching too far here, but since Rav Huna says it clearly, and since Rav Papa says it by implication, so it's definitely, it has to be an issue all along, even from the Mishnah itself. I mean, that's where Rav Huna is reaching. Yeah, according to one reading, he's reaching back into the Mishnah, and he's saying when the Mishnah says meitav, and then it says, we can also pay by equivalent, right? So really, kesef is all the time.
Well, the Mishnah only says meitav, and he wants to say don't think only meitav, but also kesef. The Mishnah didn't mean to eliminate kesef.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So kesef is always, in one way or another, it's always in the background, and it's just a question of how to bring it to the foreground.
Exactly.
So Rav Huna does it explicitly, and Rav Papa does it implicitly, but in a way it's more powerful what Rav Papa does.
Right, because he spells out the svara. I mean, we don't know why Rav Huna made kesef equal to meitav. We have no idea. And we have to put it together. But here, at least Rav Papa, you see, he tells us a reason. It says in Dr. Gemara, that's why a tam is so important. When you have a reason, then you can understand things. If you just have a case and a law, it's very difficult to understand, why the law comes from that case. That's a big gap. That's why the Mishnah purposely spoke in terms of case and law, because the Torah Shabbat Peh was supposed to explain those that space of tam, and it was left oral because it was not supposed to be written down. But as things generated, went on, it got in Sidora, so then the more things had to be spelled out. But here, and that's exactly what all Abaya has is a problem. How does Meitav Haaretz and Subin go together? So this Tam of Reb Papa clarifies the situation. Remember, when we studied it, it also was revolutionary because we thought Meitav was first. We thought Meitav was better than Subin. This is making Subin better through a Sibara than Meitav.
Right.
Very interesting. Okay, but here, and now we're pushing it even more. Now, that was bad enough. Not bad enough. To make Meitav better, to make Subin better than Meitav was a big, big chiddush. How could the worst be better than the best, right? That was, wow, that was revolutionary. But now we're pushing it even further, and we're saying it's even better than Meitav. That means if you have the metaltalin, then you have to give it before the Meitav Karka. We're pushing it another step.
Right.
And we're saying that's all. He says it's mashman. It's an implication, as you said. It's a strong implication, but it's not a clear text. Okay.
It seems to me almost like by an irony that Rav Papa's position on Kesef is actually stronger than Rav Huna's position. Because by comparison, even though Rav Huna says it explicitly, it almost sounds like he's saying it, I don't want to say by rote, but it's almost like a dogma for him. Like, okay, we have to, Meitav, Torah says Meitav, we got to pay with Meitav. But hey, let's not forget Kesef. Kesef is really important. Metaltalin, so it's for him, Kesef, it's almost like, let's bring in Kesef on principle, but it's almost as if, I don't want to sound arrogant, but it's almost as if he doesn't really understand what Kesef is. He's just bringing it in on principle. Whereas Rav Papa, precisely by not thematizing it explicitly, precisely by talking about Subin, he's saying, look, what are we talking about here? We're talking about exchangeable goods. That's it. Bottom line, we want to be able to go to the market and sell things as easily as possible. So even though he doesn't thematize Kesef, but in a way his view of Kesef is much stronger, I think, than Rav Huna's. See what I'm saying?
Well, the question is, what did Rav Huna think? He was just by rote saying, we know that Kesef is equal to Meitav. We don't know why. He also had a conception to say that. He didn't just say it in the air. All we have is a statement. But too bad he didn't keep talking. And Rav Nachman, interrupted him. What about Shavik Kesef? He says, oh, that's with a laceling. But he definitely had a conception. So there also is a question of the Rishonim are arguing, because what was his conception? So we read one position in the rush to say, well, he's on the Mishnah, and you might just read the Mishnah that only says Meitav Karka, it doesn't say Kesef. So maybe both Kesef and Shavik Kesef are below Meitav Karka, and that really is the first thing that you have to do. And he was saying, no, I don't think it's eliminating both. It's really only eliminating Shavik Kesef. It's really Kesef is equal to it. How do you know all this? Okay, we have to fill in now all the blanks. How did he know? What did he mean? But he definitely had a conceptualization of it. Okay, the problem is again he doesn't tell us. We have to fill in the gap. We have to fill it in. So if you can see it somewhere else or something, where? Okay. Anyway, but we're seeing more and more. We're seeing more, and this is one of the Baruch Hashem, this is one of the goals that I have, is to show the gaps and why people must talk. They're not talking because it's a nice thing that let me say a vort. They're talking because it's necessary to speak here. There's a question that must be addressed here, which is the relationship to Kesef and Metaltalin, and Kesef to Karka, and Kesef to and Metaltalin to Karka, and Karka to Metaltalin, Karka to Kesef. Well, those variations, those relationships have to be spelled out. And it depends on how you understand the text. And then what's your proofs? Here, the only thing that the Ramah can I believe that this, by the way, is, I think that, I looked at Ramah, I couldn't find him. I mean the book, the physical book. And this is by the Beit Yosef or the Ran. But he brings, I think that the only thing the Ramah said was the first two things. He said, Nezikin, if you have money and Subin, you have to pay with money, and the same thing is in Balchov. That's all the Ramah said. You see, and maybe he said this thing about Ketos. Maybe he could have said that also. But here it says, "B'gabe Balchov nami mashmachi." I believe that that's the Ran talking, because he said Balchov. I think that the Ramah said who adin Balchov, but he didn't say why. So then what does this really mean? V'gabi Balchov nami mashmachi. So I think this proof is from Beit Yosef, and it's a proof from the Hut of Ba'akum. And then Beit Yosef goes further and he says, and it's also mashma that money is better than metaltalin from our Gemara of Reb Papa, right? And then he goes on and says, since I said it's mashma from our Gemara, we can extend it to Balchov. Look what he says. V'hu hadin v'chein hadin b'Balchov. Right?
Because this is the Ran speaking here, right?
Yeah. This is the Ran speaking. Yeah. I can learn. In other words, Nezikin is my case, and I understand it in the language of Reb Papa. I understood that chilek must be the way that kesef is better than metaltalin, and this same din also that kesef is better than metaltalin, I can explain in Balchov. In other words, I can learn Balchov from Nezikin, because we never knew it. We have a case of Balchov where he says that he's talui be'akum, so we know that he should have grabbed the money, but he says it's the goyish stuff, so he can't grab it. He has to grab something else. But what's the source of that? So comes along the Beit Yosef or the Ran, whoever it is. Let's say it's the Ran. I don't keep saying both of them. He says, I'll show you that you're really going to learn Balchov from Nezikin. Wait a minute. Nezikin has the din of Meitav and Balchov doesn't. So Nezikin is more Chumrah. Oh, so that's a good point. He says, one second. Yes, Nezikin is more Chumrah. If Nezikin is more Chumrah, so maybe that's why you have to give Kesef before Metaltalin. But in Balchov, which is more Mako, so then the Lova can give Kesef or Metaltalin, right? That's a possibility. If we say that Balchov is more Mako, because you only have to pay with Baininus in Balchov, so I can't learn the din that there's a preference of money. There's a preference of money I learned from Reb Papa, let's say, in Nezikin. Now, do I want to extend it to Balchov? So he'll say you can't, because Balchov, it may be that you have a choice, because it's more nickel. So maybe the Lova has a choice to give back land or metaltalin. So he says that's not true, even though, because the reason, he explains here, but the reason why that the Lova has to pay in Baininus is a special reason that we're trying to protect him from an unscrupulous Balchov that wants to rip him off. But when it comes to metaltalin, that reason doesn't exist. Okay, I can go into that, but we went into that. Okay, now here he says, the last piece, the isle metaltalin va'ara lo matzi yihiv le'ara, the metaltalin adif tfei lahai taima the zamune. He's here to use that word. I want to show you that word. Now the Ran says, now wait a minute. Also, I want to show you that I just proved to you from the Mashmus of Reb Papa that metaltalin is greater than Ara because it's closer to Kesef. Excuse me, that Kesef is greater than metaltalin. I'm sorry, because Kesef is the real thing and metaltalin is only the Ke'ilu that you can get the Kesef. So that makes Kesef greater, Nezikin. And that's also true in Balchov. And don't ask me, well, Balchov is more Makel. Maybe you don't have a preference of Kesef over it. No. And he says, Venira de isle metaltalin v'ara. Now, what happens if you have metaltalin and ara? Lo matzi hivle ara. The metaltalin adifa tfei lahai time des mune le zuze. If you have metaltalin in land, then metaltalin is better because of this reason that it's more ezmune le zuze. You can, zuze are more present. Delo tzarech, and he spells out as far, delo tzarech la hachrize alayhu. When it comes to metaltalin, you just sell it and you get your money. But when it comes to land, you have to put up a for sale sign, and you have to tell people you're selling the land. It's a whole, have to attract the customers. And then he brings a pasuk in. This could also all be about Balchov, by the way. And then he brings a pasuk in Balchov that the creditor has to stand outside, and the lover brings out his things. So he wants to make a deal that you see that the creditor has a house, and the malva can't take the house. He has to wait for the creditor to bring out the lover, the borrower, to bring out his movables. Okay, but whatever we see here is that according to this Ramah, according to the Ran, understanding the Ramah, he wants to say that the relationship of money, metaltalin, and karka is all learned from Rav Papa, and it's a mashma'ut. It's a mashma'ut. I mean, that's, in other words, I ask you, what's the source? And from that source, we're going to learn Balchov. Because there's no reason to split them, as the Beit Yosef said. There's no reason to split the two cases. So I can learn Balchov from Nezikin, and Nezikin I learned from Rav Papa. And Rav Papa is totally a svara. That means how you understand what he meant. Right? So in the end, we have no clear case in Nezikin that says money is better than metaltalin, and metaltalin is better than karka. There's no clear case that says it. But from the mashmus of the lashon of Rav Papa, we understand that. Gewaltig, huh?
Yeah.
Mamish gewaltig.
It makes sense. It makes sense of what you've been saying all along, which is that it's like the Torah Shabbal Peh is somehow written in the mashmos. You know? Exactly.
And that's why it's encoded, and you have to get the point. I always say you have to get the chap. You have to hear, like you said. What do you say? B'Shomea Avram ba'Avram. What do you say? We have to get the exact lashon. Have to find the pasuk. Yeah. No, it's very important. B'chai Sarah. Right in the beginning, B'chai Sarah.
Oh yeah. Right.
It's Chai Sarah.
Yeah, Adoni Shma'eni, Eretz 400 shekel kesef. He even says Shma'eni. Listen to me. This is Ephron talking. 400 shekel kesef beini uveincha mahi ve'esmescha kvar vayishma Abraham es el Ephron vayishkol Abraham le'Ephron es a kesef asher yiber be'oznei b'neicha. Abramos. Yeah.
He got the point.
I never saw, I always saw that says Vayishma Avram, but it's interesting that Ephron says Adoni Shma'eni.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to me carefully here. I'm not just giving you the thing. Get the mashmut of my language here. Oh, I got that. I got it. Okay. Take real cash. Okay, I got the.
The truth is, it actually, like, we even say Torah Shabbal Peh. So if it's coming by mouth, it's going into the ear. So it has to be a mashma. It has to be something that's heard.
That's right. You have to hear it.
You can't just see it on the page.
Exactly. And this was the big problem that a lot of people confront, that they want things to be spelled out for them. And the training is to hear. Der Herr, right? Is that the word in German?
What is?
Der Herr. Der Herren? What is der Herr?
No, it's in German. It's just hören. Hören means.
No, there's Herren and der Herren. They say in
Herren, I
Yiddish.
think it's
Anyway.
Yiddish. Yeah,
It's Yiddish.
Yeah.
Yiddish. It's
I
Yiddish.
think it must be verhören in German. I'm not sure.
Okay, I don't know,
Listen
because
closely.
German changed to from good old Yiddish, it went to Hochdeutsch. But as
That's right.
my German teacher told me at the first day of the class, where he tried to see if anyone knew German, and I spoke a few words in Yiddish, he said, "Never speak that dialect in my class." Needless to say, I did not do well in that class. I won't tell you what the outcome was. A real wonderful Nazi. It was very wonderful to have him, and it was also wonderful to say goodbye. Anyway, that's that. But that's what you have to get the point. They make the difference between Shema and, how do you say to hear in Hebrew?
Re'iyah. Re'iyah. No, it's the.
No, Riyah is to see. Shomea and, oh boy.
Other than ro'eh?
No, Re'eh is to see.
What's the opposite of? What do you mean?
No, the same. There's another word for hear. There's there's listen and hear. How do you say listen? Oh, yeah.
I thought in Hebrew.
Shomea, it's the same thing. There is no difference.
Yeah,
Shomea.
it's the same. Yeah, there is no. Yeah.
But they want to say
Shomea in Hebrew is more nuanced, like Nasa v'nishma. The way we read it.
Yeah, again, not saying. This is all the word mashma. That means you have to hear what's really said, not the physical words, but the mashma'ut. And a lot of the things, that's why I said with the Ramchal, we went through a lot of the technical aspects of the Ramchal that comes from Aristotle. The technical parts of language which are important, but most stuff that's going on in the learning is not the physical words, but the mashma'ut, those inferences, those implications. It's those subtle implications that are going on, which you won't catch simply by reading the words. You have to be attuned to those, just like you said with Ephron. Yeah, with Adam, you have to be attuned to the implications. Not everything everyone says is what they mean.
Right.
Unfortunately. Or whatever. I mean, But anyway, be that as may, we'll stop here. Now we'll go on in the tour. We didn't finish the tour. We have to finish. Let me just see this tour here. Okay, we have to finish the tour. It's the Beit Yosef in the tour. Okay. Very, very important here. He gets into this thing. We have to get into that. We have to finish it. Okay, slowly. We have to do the tour first. Then we'll handle the people around the tour. Okay, on the page, like the Beit Chodesh. Excuse me. I'm a little sleepy here. There's the tour and the commentary of the Beit Yosef. Okay. Now there's also the Beit Chadash, which also comments on the tour. It's very interesting that these other people are all from Poland. They're all that's what it is. It just happens that people that are brought here. I mean, the Jerisha and all these people. But so we have to finish that, and then we're ready for the Shulchan Aruch, and then after we do the Shulchan Aruch, we have to do the commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, and that's going to round up this level E, okay, that we're talking about. Bezrat Hashem. It takes a little time, but because we're integrating all this information, so we have to go back and forth to see what's being done. It's not, again, just like new pieces of information. It's all integrated and encoded, as we said, and embedded into the text. So you have to get this the back and forth of what was said and now what's the new information being spoken about here. Okay, so we will say goodbye till
Pick up on Sunday night, yeah?
Bezat Hashem Sunday
Hashem.
night. Bezat Hashem. Now I had this thing here and I forgot how to do it. Okay, so now I have to first close the meeting or I'll be in trouble. Yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead. What would you want to say? You have something?
It's just funny because I told you that now it's summertime and I'm going to be all free. I actually find that during the year, because I'm tied down by work, I'm more reliable. My wife and I were planning to take a little trip to Rome on to the city of Rome. Rome sounds like the Roman Empire here. But we wanted to maybe leave on Sunday, so I'm just thinking.
No problem. So look, if listen, I understand now there's the time to be. So Bavakasha. I mean, if you can't do it, so we'll push it to Wednesday or another day or whatever. But whatever it is, just give me a heads up of where we're where we're holding. That's all.
Of course, maybe I'm assuming that when we are in Rome or wherever we go in Italy, that there'll be Wi-Fi in the hotel and we can learn.
Oh yeah, right. So maybe we can get a little.
I'll write to you. I'll email you for sure.
No problem. Okay. Have a great trip.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We'll see you whenever. Okay. Be well. Call to.
Right.
Call to.
Okay. Thanks. Call to.